For most of human history, religion wasn't just a belief. It was the only way people understood the world. Ancient societies believed gods controlled everything: rain, storms, disease, birth, and death. There was no room for doubt and no alternative explanations. Religion was deeply woven into law, culture, and identity, making it feel less like a choice and more like a natural part of life. Belief in gods wasn't seen as an opinion. It was simply reality. But over time, what once felt unquestionable began to crack and fade. Religious belief is steadily declining worldwide, ushering in an era where people have the freedom to question and to choose for themselves. For centuries, religion filled the gaps in human understanding. When people didn't know why thunder struck or diseases spread, they attributed it to the will of gods. But education changed everything. As science explained lightning through atmospheric pressure, disease through germs, and life through evolution, the need for supernatural explanations began to shrink. Education doesn't attack religion directly. It simply illuminates what was once hidden in mystery. The more people learn about how the world actually works, the less they need to rely on divine stories to explain it. Knowledge doesn't destroy faith by force. It quietly replaces it with understanding. For most of history, religious institutions controlled the story. They owned the scriptures, delivered the sermons, and shaped what people were allowed to believe. But technology changed the rules. With the internet, information flows freely. A teenager in a small village can now watch debates, read studies, and explore ideas that were once locked behind temple doors and church walls. This democratization of knowledge shattered the monopoly religion held for centuries. People are no longer limited to one narrative. They can compare, question, and think for themselves. And once doubt enters, blind faith starts to lose its grip. In the past, most people only knew the religion they were born into. It felt absolute, unquestionable, the only truth. But globalization changed that. Today, people can see and interact with countless different faiths, each claiming to be the ultimate truth. This diversity exposes contradictions and makes it clear that belief is often determined by geography and culture, not divine revelation. As a result, many begin to question the authority of any single religion. Faith is no longer a closed box. It's one option among many. And when people can compare beliefs, they also learn to think critically about them. Many traditional religious teachings were created in a very different time, when societies were less equal, less informed, and more controlled by fear. But as humanity progresses, modern values like equality, human rights, and personal freedom often clash with these old doctrines. Issues such as LGBTQ+ rights, gender equality, and freedom of belief expose the moral gaps between ancient scriptures and today's ethical standards. This growing moral tension forces people to choose between holding on to outdated rules or embracing evolving human values. For many, this conflict becomes the turning point where unquestioned faith gives way to critical reflection. For centuries, religion maintained its power by instilling fear of the unknown. Hell, divine punishment, curses, and eternal damnation. These fears kept people obedient, not out of genuine understanding, but out of terror of the unseen. But today, as science explains natural phenomena and education encourages critical thinking, these supernatural fears are losing their grip. People increasingly view such threats as myths or symbolic stories, not literal dangers. When fear fades, control weakens, and individuals begin to think, question, and choose for themselves rather than obey out of fear. Throughout history, Religion often thrived where life was uncertain. When poverty, disease, and war made people turn to divine protection for comfort and hope. Hardship fueled belief. But as economies grow and living standards improve, people rely less on supernatural help and more on education, healthcare, and technology. Nations with stronger economies consistently show lower levels of religious belief and participation. When basic needs are met and security increases, faith is no longer a necessity. It becomes a personal choice, not a survival mechanism. In the past, not belonging to a religion was seen as strange or even dangerous. Faith was considered the default, and leaving it meant facing social stigma or even punishment. But today, in many parts of the world, being non-religious is increasingly accepted and normalized. People openly identify as atheist, agnostic, or simply spiritual but not religious, without fear of exclusion. This shift changes the cultural landscape. Religion is no longer the default identity, and individuals are free to shape their own values and worldview without needing a divine framework. For centuries, religion offered ready-made answers about life's purpose, morality, and destiny. But these answers often relied on unverifiable claims and comforting illusions rather than evidence. Today, more people are turning inward and outward to philosophy, science, human connection, and personal growth to build their own sense of meaning. This kind of meaning is deeper and more resilient because it's rooted in reality, not blind faith. It encourages people to take responsibility for their lives, rather than waiting for a higher power to provide purpose. The decline of traditional religious dominance is not just a local or temporary trend. It's a worldwide transformation. As education, technology, and global awareness continue to grow, more societies are moving towards secular values and independent thinking. This shift is not about attacking faith, but about recognizing that humanity is outgrowing old systems of control and fear. Once people experience freedom of thought and open access to knowledge, there's no turning back. It's a permanent evolution toward a future where meaning and morality are shaped by human reason, empathy, and shared progress, not dictated by dogma.